That inaugural MLS season was wild, and we're not just talking about the ridiculous jerseys. There was a lot going on, and even the most diehard fans may not remember some of the ridiculousness, so we're going to take a look at 5 things you may not remember about the inaugural MLS season. The best regular season team and winner of the Supporters' Shield in MLS's first season was the now defunct Tampa Bay Mutiny, led by none other than league MVP Carlos Valderrama. Despite their success during the regular season, the Mutiny actually lost in the playoffs and eventually they would fold only a few years later. I always liked the Mutiny color scheme, logo, and branding, but it also seemed more fitting for one of those random Super Nintendo games that you'd see like in Blockbuster every now and again, and not really fitting for a professional sports team. Ultimately, everyone remembers DC United winning that first MLS Cup, but it was, in fact, the Tampa Bay Mutiny who were the best regular season team in the MLS's first season. You probably remember the old school MLS Shootout, which they used in that first season and for a few more years after that. What you may not recall is the specific structure of these and just how jarring it was to watch. The ball was placed 35 yards away from the goal and the attacker was given 5 seconds to try and score. What almost always happened is that the attacker would take the ball and sprint towards the goal, and the goalkeeper on the line would sprint towards the ball, and you would just get this weird sort of meeting of the two where no one could figure out what the other one was going to do. It wasn't really that pretty or exciting to watch most of the time, but yeah, it happened and it was a thing. The MLS has habitually let way too many teams into the playoffs every year, but that first year, it was beyond ridiculous. 8 of the league's 10 teams qualified for the postseason that inaugural year. Now you would think that some bad clubs got in there, but it's not really the case because in an odd quirk, 7 clubs finished within a game of or at 500. So basically you're talking about either 17-15, 16-16, or 15-17. In fact, only one team lost more than 17 games in that first season. That would be the Colorado Rapids. Last year, Jeff Carlisle and Noah Davis put together an oral history of the inaugural MLS season, with players like Alexi Lawless, Kobe Jones, Tony Meola sharing their experience of what was really a wild 12 months. Perhaps the most interesting thing that came from that article was the fact that a lot of teams were practicing in local parks or parking lots or basically anywhere they could kick a ball around. Kobe Jones even noted how the LA Galaxy had to battle with people playing frisbee just to get enough space so they could have a full team practice. Before they were Sporting Kansas City, and before they became the Kansas City Wizards, the MLS franchise in the city were known as the Wiz. Apparently, neither the owners nor the league did any research about this name, because if they had, they would have realized that the Wiz was already being used by an electronic store brand in the East Coast. Hell, if they had watched a New York Yankees game in the mid to late 90s, they would have seen this firsthand because their advertisements were everywhere. The electronic store sued the team for using its trademark after that inaugural MLS season, and they even won, which is why Kansas City went from the Wiz to the Wizards ahead of the second season. As for the Wiz, the electronic store, you probably best know them for the junk mail episode of Seinfeld which aired in 1997. You know, the one where Elaine dates their mascot, I guess you would call him? Anyway, that was really the high watermark for the brand as the company closed in 2003. It seems like somebody beat the Wiz after all. That does it for our look at the things you may not remember about the inaugural MLS season. For the Touchback, I'm Cheyenne Hollis, and as always, you gotta take it out to the 25.